Everybody knows the usual boot brands. Heck, even a few years ago, you really had to dig to find brands like Nick's. But today's the opposite. I'm going to talk about some brands that you may never have heard of, but should definitely check out. Welcome, friends. I'm Carl Murawski. Now, this isn't going to be a best boots on earth kind of video. This is going to be more of a spotlight, because I really like the fact that smaller brands, they're focused on making their thing. They're not really big into marketing or influencer stuff, and most of the time what we hear about is stuff that is being promoted by influencers these days, and I guess myself included, as much as I hate that moniker. So some really cool brands are sort of flying under the radar because either they don't have the money to spend on advertising or they don't want to play that game, and they just want to sit there and make their cool stuff. Also, I've got my coffee going here. I've got a heater in the back. It's January in New England. It was about 14 degrees today, so I apologize for any noise you may hear in the background. First up is Bucks Boots out of Oregon. Thought you heard about all the Oregon boot makers? Well, think again. Actually, this is a pretty new one to me as well. And even if you go over their Instagram, they have something like 250 followers, so I don't know if this is just brand new or maybe just coming online. Now, it appears that Bucks Boots are exclusively made to measure, so that means they're not going to have any stock waiting around. If you want a boot, well, then you've got to put an order in, get measured, and then they'll make one for you. Some of the best brands out there do this, like Limmer Boots out of New Hampshire. That's kind of the way that they operate as well. An important part of Bucks Boots' story is that Michael Buck apprenticed under Bill Clemens from Clemens Boot Company until he was ready to retire, and then Michael Buck took that build kind of process and then moved it to his Bucks Boots. So you're having sort of the generational knowledge of Walter and Bill Clemens now in the hands of Michael Buck, which is really cool. You know, this whole idea of ordering a pair of boots and working with a bootmaker in order to make a pair that fit you perfectly and work really well wasn't uncommon a long time ago, but now with everybody wanting everything the next day, it's pretty rare. And I like the fact that these are made one at a time. With that attention to detail, you're guaranteed to get something very, very good. And I will let you know because I have a pair on order. Next up is Hoffman Boots. Now, Hoffman is out of Kellogg, Idaho, and the first time I ever saw a pair of these in the flesh was with the guy I was working with, and he had these boots on which just had a sort of a silhouette that I had never seen before, and I was like, what are you wearing? And he goes, oh, these are Hoffmans, these are the best. And I'm like, okay, you know, everybody thinks that their boots are the best. And I asked him about them, and he said, yeah, I've had 2 or 3 pairs of them. I've had them resold. I won't buy anything else because these just work for me. And this is a brand that's actually been around for a long time. They call themselves 4th generation family owned, which I definitely respect because that means they've been solving real problems for a long time. Now, these are by and large work boots. Most people aren't going to buy these for the style aspect of it, but I have heard that their insulated packer boots are some of the best out there. They have some lineman boots, arborists, logging, hunting, all kinds of stuff in there. So if you're somebody who's either working in the trades or outdoors or with your hands, or you're somebody who likes outdoor activities, so many activities, you should definitely check them out. All right, now we're gonna take a little trip up north to Canada, where we can find Canada West Boots. Now, Canada West has been making boots since 1978. Now, here's the thing that makes them relatively unknown to most Americans is that on their website, they flat out say that they do not sell directly to the public. That is, except for their factory outlet store at the manufacturing facility, so most people run across these boots through retailers. Now, Canada West has a whole bunch of styles. They have some ladies' boots, they have some biker boots, they have some work boots, Romeos, etc. So you can go on there and find what you like. Actually, some of their work boots look very legit. I'd like to try these on for myself, but again, it's hard to find them. Next up is Wohlford Co. out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Have you ever heard of Wohlford Co? No? Me either, and that's because they used to be called Dayton. Now, I think an element to their whole rebrand is actually here on their website. On April 23rd, a fire from a neighboring restaurant swept through our building, destroying the roof, gutting the second floor, and damaging everything below. Makers, musicians, and small businesses who called Dayton home lost tools, studios, and work. But Dayton has always been about resilience. We're rebuilding not just a factory, but a living piece of East Van history. So they're very clear about the fact that they've suffered through a fire and are currently rebuilding, so you have to have a little bit of patience if you really want to get a pair of boots from them. However, there is a tab here that says currently available, and if you hit that, you can see that they actually have some pretty cool looking engineer boots, they have some lace-ups, they have some packer style, some work boots, some kind of western looking boots. There's not much there, but there is enough that if you want to, dip a toe into the world of Wohlford Co., you can. Last but not least is Dog Leap Boots out of Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom. Similarly to Buck's boots, Dog Leap boots are leaning hard into handmade, albeit on the other side of the pond. And I've been following them for a while now. The thing that really turned me on to them was the fact that they were doing some really cool half-sole stuff. I love the way an uninterrupted heel stack looks, just all that leather there, just really appeals to me. And Dog Leap was doing it long before a lot of these other companies sort of caught on to that style. Now, these styles aren't going to be unfamiliar to you if you've seen Pacific Northwest boots before, but some of them do have a little bit of a different style to them. So with some of these, I'm noticing that the heel counter is a lot shorter than on other versions, and I always thought that that was a better design in general, just to lock your heel in. Why have that piece go all, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. I'm not a boot maker, so what the hell do I know about it? But either way, I've gotten a lot of people who have been asking, where can I get a White's or Nick's or Frank's style boot here in Europe? And this looks like a great option. I mean, this is about as close as you're gonna get without having to worry about paying like import fees or duties or VAT tax or whatever it is. I don't know how it works depending on where you are, but this is a great local option if you're in the UK. And I mean, you know, they have some really cool looking stuff here. I mean, again, things that are not going to be unfamiliar to you. They also do some pretty cool stuff, like they finish with a homemade bark oil. I've never seen anything like that before. But, you know, they're definitely marching to their own drum, but in a way that is going to be familiar. And I love this kind of stuff. This is the type of thing that I really enjoy finding and hopefully bringing to you and maybe bringing them some more customers. I don't know. I mean, I have nothing to do with any of these brands, but just helping out the small guy, it appeals to me. Now, these brands have likely flown under your radar. They certainly flew under mine because they're not a part of the influencer machine. And I know that I'm a part of that, but I mean, sometimes it's nice to see an alternative. I mean, we see the same brands over and over and over again. And when you see something that's just a little bit different, it could be refreshing. So I hope that if for nothing else, this just gives you a lot more to choose from, except for Canada West, unless you live near their factory. But it's just some alternatives that maybe you never heard of before. So anyway, go check them out. Show the little guys some love because it goes a long way towards their bottom line. And I'll catch you next time.